What's going on, Reds? Welcome back to Liverpool Latest. I'd like to start this video by asking you a very simple question. Where the fuck was this performance on Tuesday? Why did we have to suffer through that 90 plus minute slog only to come back to Molyneux and get a pretty solid victory, a pretty good statement victory to cap off the fifth round of the FA Cup, moving towards the quarterfinals? Where was this Tuesday? And it's funny because when you watch the game back, and if you compare the two games, the first half, the first 45 minutes are almost exactly the same. Wolves are using the low block. Liverpool's can't really find a way to make a push. Yeah, there was a little bit more entertaining chances in this one, but when you look at them side by side, it's almost like you're watching the same game. The passing is slow, the play is monotonous. Mo Salah can't get past the defenders, and thus making a few mistakes in passing as a result. We keep having to kick it back and restart the attack again over and over. And in the second half, that was a much different story compared to the second half on Tuesday. The second half, the floodgates finally opened, and the goals just kept coming. Andy Robertson got one in the 51st minute. Mo Salah got one in the 53rd, a few minutes later, which was almost called an offside. Thankfully, that was not the case. So I'm sure that was good for Mo's confidence because, frankly, after halftime, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think he's got what it takes right now. But that goal was back to prime Salah, if you ask me. And then Curtis Jones in the 74th minute decided to also get into the scoring. Good for him, because it's nice that we had Curtis Jones get a goal. I'm sure it was very good for him. I think he's only had like one or two goals this season, including this one. So, and then you would think the match would end in a 3-0, clean sheet, but it seems like Hwang Hee-chan, say that 5 times fast, decided to score in stoppage time, thus giving Wolves just a teeny bit of hope. He ended up getting that goal in the 92nd minute. But honestly, yes, it was a giveaway goal. Yes, it was a goal that we probably didn't need to concede. But at the end of the day, the match was already won by that point, so I really wasn't too upset about giving up that goal. I think once I saw the ball land and, we broke through, and the player had broken through Hwang Hee-chan, and it was pretty much said and done at that point. I think he was already ahead of the defenders. There was nothing they can do to catch up to him. I think Szoboszlai tried to make an attempt to stop it, but clearly was unsuccessful given the fact that the goal happened anyway. But I will say, though, I think overall it was a much better performance. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if we take the first half out of it, it's night and day how we played from Tuesday to now. Very much of a different story and a different team. It seems like Arne Slot kind of got on their ass a little bit at halftime this time around. I was like, hey, fuckheads, stop dicking around and score some goals. And that is exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, we had 19 shots this match as opposed to Wolves' 5. Shots on target, 10-3, favor of Liverpool. Possession, should be no surprise. We dominated that exponentially, 66% to 34. More passes, it was almost over double the amount. Passes 599 to 211, which is insane. The accuracy of said passes, 92% to 77. We did concede less fouls. Wolves got 10-8 on that end. We received less yellow cards, as we only received 1 to Wolves' 2. No red cards were given in this match, but there were 3 offsides that were called against us, where no offsides were called to Wolves because, let's be honest, they really didn't get much in the second half of or in the our section of the field to really warrant getting any sort of chance or even getting an offside to begin with. And of course, the corner game was won by us as well. 11 corners were given. None of them were successful. They were all very, very poor, if I'm being honest with you. If it's one downside I can give this match, it's that the corners were exponentially poor. Okay. All in all, you know, a lot of the same problems. I think once we started to get them to spread out a little bit, the Wolves, that's when we were starting to attack a lot better. I think the first half was a lot of that low blocking scenario, and I kept asking you the last time, what does Liverpool have to do different in order to actually score? And it seemed like once they started getting the Wolves to spread out a little bit, that's when the goals started happening, and that's when their defense and their low block defense completely shut down. And that was good in our favor for sure. I think that was a very telling sign that that was something we should have been doing all game, not only just this game, but the last game as well. So, you know, we can argue back and forth about could have, would have, should have, and we have a right to. But the fact of the matter is, something was done this time around to change the game. As a matter of fact, even some of the lineups was changed as opposed to last game, where Rio and Gamoha actually got a start for the first time that I can remember since he's been called up to the senior team. And he played for a good 67 minutes. I had to, I'm sorry. Uh, he played about 67 minutes. Was the last time I saw before he got called off, and I gotta be honest with you. I think it was a great decision by Slot to call Rio in. I don't agree with him keeping Gakpo in at all. I don't know why Gakpo had to be in the striker position, because Gakpo didn't do fuck all game. Frankly, he did a little bit, but not a whole lot to make any sort of impact. If you ask me, Rio made more of an impact than Gakpo could have ever done, and that's because Rio actually tried to attack the net with a sense of fearlessness, a sense of ambition. This guy clearly wanted to score, and he came close a handful of times. As a matter, and I said this, I'll say this. If you take Rio out of the equation for this half, the first half, we're watching the same old boring game that we saw on Tuesday. Rio was probably the most entertaining part of that first half because he actually he showed off a level of skill and a level of urgency that I think a lot of the players weren't having at that moment in time. And one thing I didn't necessarily realize about Rio, because I don't get to see him play all that often, but watching him start, he's a small guy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to some degree, but it is sort of a bad thing in the sense where I feel like he gets bullied around a little bit more. And that was my fear as I was watching him play a little bit. He seemed to be getting bullied just a teeny bit more than I would have liked. He did take some bad shots as well. I think he took like a knee to the head by accident. Which I was like, oh shit, I'm surprised he doesn't have a concussion off of that, because that's a pretty fucked up thing to get. When something had happened, there was like a collision, or he slid out of bounds, or something happened where he and two other Wolves players basically collided with him in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know who got the foul in that situation, but it was certainly a bit of a scary moment for Rio where he got shaken up a little bit. And I was like, oh shit, I hope he's okay. But yeah, his size is a little bit concerning. I think he's got to be a little bit stronger. And obviously, he's inexperienced. I think the commentators, John Champion, and the other guy, I forgot the name of the guy, but I know John Champion because I recognize the voice. McMahon, I think his name was? I don't even know. It's irrelevant, my point. They made the point that he's inexperienced, and he's doing things that show that inexperience. It's basically like, I think it's like his first start, or one of his first starts ever as a senior player on Liverpool. So for him, clearly it's important that he gets that experience so that he can make better decisions as time goes on. I was not going to sit here and say, I expect him to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I probably should have prefaced that when I went on and on and on about him starting in in a previous video. I think it was the last one. What I also should have mentioned and did not is that he needs to start because he needs to get that experience. You cannot expect somebody to succeed if you don't give them the opportunity, and you can't expect a player to become a veteran if you do not give them the opportunity to get that experience on the pitch. And I think Rio is going to learn a lot from this game. I think overall he did a pretty solid performance. Like I said, certainly one of the more entertaining players on the pitch to watch this game, at least from the attacking side of things. So I sincerely hope that he continues to keep that up and Slot continues to use his fucking bald head and the brain that's inside of it, whatever's left anyway, and push Rio a little bit more to start matches that are a little bit not so warranted of an all-star lineup. What I am shocked about, though, is Mamardashvili didn't start, which that was a bit of a shock. Rio starting wasn't so much of a shock, but Mamardashvili was certainly something I still question, and I'm sure I'll get into this at some point in another episode. But for now, I'd also like to talk about someone else who had a great game today, and that was Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson had an absolutely stellar game. If anything, he was probably one of the best players on the pitch today. The tweets and the articles I've been reading since the game ended have been going on and on about how this old dog still got it. He still got fight. This and that and the other. And, Andy Robertson's old. Yes. He's an older player for someone in his position on defense, where he kind of has to be keeping up with the younger strikers. But his experience in leadership and on the pitch is invaluable. And I'm not the biggest Andy Robertson fan, but what I will say, and I will give him credit for, is that his leadership definitely showed today. And I'd like to go over some stats that he had in addition to what I've placed down below here. One goal, obviously, he opened the scoring for Liverpool and for the entirety of the game. One assist, which happened to be, I believe that was Salah's goal. So within the first two goals, he already has one goal and one assist. He has two defensive contributions. He had two clearances, 7 recoveries, one big chance that was created, 4 key passes, 92% pass accuracy, and on top of that, he had 125 touches on the ball, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. So yes, he may be old, but he still got it. And there's a quote that I'll probably report a little bit more in depth tomorrow, how, he says he's done everything there is to do in Liverpool and he just wants to, enjoy his time and teach the new guys, or at least, maybe give off some of that knowledge to the new guys. And reading some of that stuff and reading the reactions to Andy's performance today, as he was man of the match, the fans voted for. I'm really glad that we didn't sell him in the January deadline to Tottenham. One, because he'd be in an absolute shit show of a club right now, because Tottenham Hotspur is absolutely in shambles, to the point where they're near relegation status, if not will be relegated by the end of the season. We still have to see what happens there. It's not over yet. But I'm thankful that did not happen. I'm thankful that Liverpool decided to not pull the trigger on that. And games like this are why I'm thankful that Andy Robertson is a part of my team. Again, I may have my own personal problems with him sometimes, especially over the course of last season, because he definitely was not his best last season, if you ask me. But I will never discredit the effort he puts in on the field, and today was certainly a hell of an effort for him. It was absolutely stellar, if you ask me. Probably one of the best performances I've seen him do and have in quite some time. So as we move on towards the end of the video, I'd like to offer a few final points. Clearly, this was a big win, a much-needed win to move on to the quarterfinals. The rest of the FA Cup matches will be happening throughout the course of the weekend, so I do not know who we will be facing yet. it seems as though odds are we will be facing some sort of Premier League team because there are not many under league teams under the Premier League that are left. I think Wrexham and one other one that's Arsenal's facing are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head. And maybe there's one more, but most of them are Premier League teams. So it seems like it's going to be a Premier League based championship as it stands right now, just by the odds alone. So my hope is that Liverpool can somehow pull out and win the FA Cup. I think that the competition's going to get a lot more difficult because we are facing those bigger clubs that are on our level. But I really do think that this is something that we can pull off. Now, as opposed to the Champions League game that's happening on Tuesday, this is also a statement win in the sense where we needed momentum going into that game because now we have to go to Istanbul. So we needed this against Galatasaray and or as John Champion called it, Galatasaray. Galatasaray? I don't know. He said it in a certain way that was weird, but I call it Galatasaray because that's what it said on the internet. But going to Istanbul is going to be a big deal for us because this is yet another away game that we have. We certainly need a very big impact on that game on Tuesday because we need to get revenge for the last time we faced them earlier in the Champions League. So this is going to be a very big statement game that we need to make. And most of our Champions League performances have been very good. So I expect them to be the same going into Tuesday. But I can't help but feel just a little bit worried. Just a little bit worried. Last but certainly not least, my final thought is Arne Slot should count his lucky fucking stars that they won this game today. Because there is no doubt in my mind that if Liverpool lost this game, and I had a very, very big fear that they would today, embarrassed not once but twice against a bottom team in their own league, I would have assumed that he would have lost his job. Now, it probably would not have happened because the club, for some reason, continues to back Slot in all of his ridiculous decisions. But if we had lost this game today, there is no telling that they would have had to have made some sort of decision on Slot because losing to the Wolves in the FA Cup would have been absolutely nobody would have tolerated that. I don't care if it's the FA Cup because if it's happening in the FA Cup and it's already happening in the Premier League, what's going to happen in the Champions League coming up on Tuesday? We're going to get fucking embarrassed again. So Arne Slot should count his lucky stars that they won today and that they have a little bit of momentum going into Tuesday in Istanbul. So that is what I have for Liverpool Latest. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down below your thoughts. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button or hit that follow button wherever platform you choose to watch or listen to Liverpool Latest. It helps me out. It helps Fan Arch out. It means a lot to me as we continue to wind down in the course of the season. So why not join me for basically every day of the week where I'm talking about the latest Liverpool news, rumors, conversations, and more. So thanks for joining me today. I'll see you on the next one. Big win today. And as always, you'll never walk alone.